We here at Drehawk greatly appreciate your patronage, so please support us by clicking like and subscribe, as well as the bell icon on the bottom right of this video. If you would like to support us in additional ways, please go to our Twitter page at twitter.com/Drehawk, or go to our Patreon and support us there. We greatly appreciate your assistance. Thank you, and enjoy.
It was the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings all hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
Hello and welcome to Once More With Feeling, Shatner Claus, the new album, well, relatively new, shut up Billy, from William Shatner. And joining myself, Edmund Scribbins, this week will be...
Hi, I'm Fran. Nice to meet you all.
And, of course, because he had to call me out earlier, the schmuck, Popo Gijo here.
Otherwise known as Billy.
Fine, go ahead and use my Jado Christian name. Jado? What the hell is Jado? Yes, my Jado Christian name. That's now a new phrase. Everyone has to use it.
Is Jado Christian like J-Lo, but it's a Jewish version of J-Lo?
I don't really see the matzo balls flowing with Jado, though. I feel that's probably not going to be matzah. No, it's going to be something else. Something that's going to require a lot of alcohol to get through, whatever the case may be. Like a Festivus for The Last of Us.
So already we're going off the rails, but anyway.
There are rails on this show? Are you kidding me?
Fair point. So anyway,
I'm sorry, Fran. You're getting yourself a win way over your head already.
Yeah. I kind of realized that with the fact that I was less than a minute into the show and entirely lost already.
It's all right. We'll eventually find ourselves, but after we do that, then we'll find out we were inside ourselves the entire time.
That's a horrible way to phrase it.
So, how's about that Shatner?
Yeah. So, first things first, I got clued into the existence of this album because I know one of the people who produced it, Jürgen Engler, which is one of the weirder aspects of it because, he's the front man of Die Krups, who are one of the forerunners of industrial music.
Wait, really?
Yeah!
Huh. You would never have thunk that from this album.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound industrial at all. It seems like a completely like as possibly almost as far away from industrial as you can get.
Well, I mean, the last track is that's about the closest you could get on this album.
Right.
Would be like the last track, which feels like they just threw that one in there because they ran out of ideas and said, screw it.
Yeah.
Throw punk rock into this album.
There's still space on
Pretty
this album.
much,
Let's throw this one into.
So how do you want to tackle this? Do you want to just tackle this like one track at a time, Edmund? Do you want to just kind of flop all over the album and talk about our biggest regrets, or how do you want to do this?
Let's just go track by track and try to puzzle over this.
All right.
The one thing that I was asking throughout my first listening is, what is this album?
Okay, here's the question I have for the two of you about that. When you heard the first track, did you feel like you were on a traditional Christmas album with, a slight story to it, or did you already know, like, ahead of time without even thinking about it? Yeah, this is gonna be a trip.
It kind of felt like the backing music kind of like made it feel really Christmassy, but the way that he spoke over the backing track it kind of just threw me off. Bearing in mind, I went into this blind. I hadn't listened to like any of William Shatner's previous albums before this.
Oh, Lord.
So yeah, I was completely blind on this, and bearing in mind that I've got a bit of a background in choral singing, yeah, it really threw me off. Like the entire time, like this is not just on the first track. This is like in the entire album. It just always felt really stilted.
Well, when did you officially realize you were absolutely in way over your head? Like for me, it was about track 3, Little
Yeah.
Drummer Boys, when I knew at that point, we've now gone over the hill, we're going straight down into Lord knows what. That was the moment for me. Like, the first track was an okay carol as far as for the way that it was performed. The second one, I'm going to ignore because I refuse to listen to country, so even though I listened to it, I refuse to acknowledge its existence. So the first track for me that was off the deep end was 3. It was Little Drummer Boy with his
Pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
drunken uncle interpretation.
Oh goodness, yes. Like,
Pum, 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 pum.
I mean, it emphasised the ridiculousness of that whole pa-rum-pa-pum-pum in how he delivered it.
yeah, because a lot of it was because you'd got in Little Drummer Boy, you'd got the choral style singing in there at the same time. So, like, you kind of had some of it that was actually kind of like following the melody, and then you just got William Shatner over the top, kind of just speaking it,
Shatner.
and it just...
Yeah, you just got Shatnered.
It kind of... Yeah, you're right. It kind of did emphasize the bizarreness in the lyrics, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, from it.
Because at the core of them, they're a nonsense phrase, but then Shatner sings them, and it's all like, okay.
It just emphasizes the bizarreness of the Little Drummer Boy as a song. Like, it's a really sweet kind of idea, but because of the use of the spoken sort of sounds, well, not the spoken sounds, like the sung sounds that are not a lyric. I know there must be a technical term for that, and my brain is currently failing me.
It's Christmas Eve. You're allowed to have brain failures at this point.
But yeah, it kind of like emphasized the fact that it, for normal kind of lyrical singing, it does seem really out of place. It'd be a completely different kettle of fish if it was something that was in an actual different language and actually had a meaning. But the point is that it doesn't. It's supposed to be onomatopoeic for the sound of the tapping of the drum, I think.
Yeah.
But it sounds really bizarre
it's just a sound effect, essentially.
Well, it sounds really bizarre to sing, let alone say, and the spoken, like, Shatner speak singing just...
Yeah, because once that all started, once he goes and does his own drum solo with his mouth, that was the moment I knew that this was something to cherish, that this was something truly nightmarish.
Yeah, like, the first track that was straightforward, that's just jingle bells. There was nothing especially standout weird about it, aside from William Shatner being the one singing it, but whatever. Well, William Shatner was the one singing it, and you had Henry Rollins. We'll get onto that in a moment, but yeah, that was pretty straightforward. Blue Christmas can eat a cornucopia of cocks.
As I said, it does not exist. It's not on the album. I refuse to acknowledge
it was
Brad
definitely
Paisley in
very
any way,
weird
shape, or form.
because listening to the melody, it sounds like it's supposed to be a lot more sort of drawn out in terms of like the notation. So hearing it spoken, especially with the melody playing in the background, because that's a key thing about pretty much all of the tracks on this album, is that you can hear the melody in the orchestral parts, but Shatner's speaking over the top of it. It feels bizarre.
See, I have a theory. I have a theory for this. I think I know how they did this album. What they did is they got William Shatner into a booth and just told him to read his lines. And then they got the band together, with the background singers and the actual band, and they recorded all that. And then they just overlaid Shatner over the top of everything else. Because there is no way that was recorded at the same time, or that Shatner was given the audio of the rest of it and was able to lay over his track. Because nobody in their right mind would ever do the sins that he did to the song, or any of the songs, really.
I will agree, but he at least understood the sort of the emotion behind a lot of it, because especially in... I'm trying to remember which song it was. I think it was Silent Night, which is track number 10?
11.
No, 11. Sorry, track number 11. It was quite emotional with the way that he was speaking, which was nice from my perspective, because, like, obviously, like, putting a lot of emotion into the way that into your songs is quite important.
I agree, but I still point out that he is too disjointed to make any sense.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
The only exception was track 5, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which he did a remarkably good job. I actually liked his performance. It was
That
genuinely
was-
good, not like ironically good. It was genuinely good.
That was genuinely my favorite track on the entire album. Yeah. It's the fact that there was the musical accompaniment with the reading of the poem that just sort of drew it all together and made it easier to see in your mind's eye that this was actually kind of happening. I remember, like, when I was little, I had a copy of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I hope it's still somewhere in England because I really don't want to have lost that book. It's kind of a precious one. But the point is that, like, you've obviously got the pictures in those sorts of books because they're, like, mostly aimed at children. But for me, I could sort of see almost this modernized film in my head while I was listening to this. And, like, it felt like it fit together really, really well.
I think they timed it based upon him once again. I don't think that it was recorded at the same time. I think the musical accompaniment followed him, which would be the easier way to do it versus trying to get him to conform to somebody else. Just doesn't feel like Shatner's style, so I think they probably once again recorded him by himself and then basically went, okay, as he goes through this, follow
especially
him.
lends credence to that theory is if you listen to instances like with Silent Night and how Iggy Pop is his meter and he's on point with how he's singing, and then you've got Shatner just being completely disjointed. It does suggest that the recording times possibly were different.
Now, it was Winter Wonderland that he shouts at the non-existent audience to be quiet because he wants to enjoy his Winter Wonderland, if I remember correctly, which tells me he was probably getting mad at the recording studio while he was trying to do his weird dialogue nonsense. So he breaks the fifth wall? Because he's mad at the recording crew, not even the audience. There were just moments like that that just took me just completely by surprise. Just had me laughing, going, this actually made it in the actual track? Really? I mean, it's funny.
In some
It's just
cases, though,
goofy.
like, some of those sort of bits that aren't written in do just end up being even better than what you had scripted. And that applies to pretty much, like, all forms of pre-recorded media, you know? Like, I've lost track of the amount of films that have had scenes that were not scripted that actually ended up being infinitely better than the original script.
I mean, the most immediate one that comes to mind is with Thor Ragnarok and the whole exchange of he's a friend from work was completely ad-libbed and was actually a suggestion from a little kid.
Aw.
A scene trickle there was one in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets that I really liked with Lucius in Dumbledore's office right near the end. I can't remember if that was ad-libbed or not, but either way.
Run, Run, Rudolph.
Not heard that one before.
I dislike the original. Ugh. It gets played here in the States all the time.
Okay.
I have heard it before, and yeah, it's a tedious slog.
Oh dear.
It's a terrible song on its own naturally. Now, Shatner actually almost sang this. I was rather impressed. It was almost singing. It was close. It was on the cusp of him attempting to sing. And it was not bad for a version of it. I just hate the original song, so it didn't really help anything.
No, no.
Yeah,
of
it's
course.
one of those, if you hate a song especially, then it's going to colour any covers that you hear. It's a bit like, and I know I'm not going to win any friends by saying this, I cannot stand the sound of silence.
You suck.
I-
Simon and Garfunkel are a national treasure and you don't deserve them.
I mean, I can't stand Simon and Garfunkel at the best of times, so uphill battle, really. So when I saw that Disturbed had covered it, it was sort of like, okay.
And I actually like the Disturbed cover too. It's not
Yeah,
quite as good as the original, but it is still a really, really good version of the song.
Well, I'll put it like this. The Disturbed version actually made me have to knock. Because I've got a top 10 list of most hated songs. It made me have to bring the Simon and Garfunkel version down on that list.
Ah, that's saying
You suck.
something.
You suck. Alright, so now we move on to the first really weird shift of emotional tone to O Come, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That was-
Because you go from Run Run Rudolph, this like rock track, yeah, jazzy rock track, to, oh god, we're gonna do a really somber song now. We don't know where this came from.
It's
Yeah,
not
that
even
was-
just that. It's the fact that, like, I must have sung O Come Emmanuel when I've been out caroling. And the whole point of it is it's supposed to be, like, these long phrases. And him speaking it just... No! Stop it! It's supposed to be long phrases. Like, it's being done in the background. And it just...
So, where were we?
Good question.
We had a technical difficulty on our end, so we do apologize if this feels a little disjointed because Edmund's computer decided that it's Christmas time and it was no longer part of the union or what have you. So if this feels a little weird, there is an explanation. There's
Black
yeah.
screen
So,
of
O Come,
death.
the most powerful
the
of
thing
all
is-
the black screens.
It wasn't even a black screen of death because I could still see my cursor and everything.
Oh yeah, and like it
But
was still recording, so
It just wasn't showing anything. So I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, so yeah, the last thing we were talking about was O Come, Emmanuel.
yes.
Featuring Rick Wakeman of Yes fame.
It's a rather strange and unusual choice, and I do have to admit it was a decent enough recording. It was just strange and
Yeah.
weird, especially since it was a right turn from the rock and roll style of Run Run Rudolph.
And the previous songs had all generally, even the one that we shall not speak of.
I will. Blue Christmas.
No!
No.
You are never allowed back now.
Oh, behave.
Okay, fine. So
But-
yeah, it's a strange track. It's haunting in its own kind of way.
Yeah, it's sort of like I don't know how it's possible, but I think I wet your pants.
That explains the squishiness. Okay.
Oh dear.
So how did you like his take of Silver Bells?
Again, disjointed as all heck.
I was not sure what to make of that.
It's also really somber compared to the traditional version of Silver Bells, which is usually much more like, I wouldn't say upbeat, but it's a lot happier sounding than his version. His version is just, the world is cold and full of terrors. Silver Bells.
But that we could hear silver bells.
It's sort of like, I mean, it's not just disjointed because of his manner of speaking. It's also just disjointed in tone.
It is a little off, yes.
Um,
Which now we get to the one that you've been griping about to me for days.
Oh yeah. This one, like,
Well,
did feel, by comparison, kind of out of place, surrounded by all of the sort of more positive ones, as you said.
yeah, like, okay, I will establish. Now, the one we're talking about is one for you, one for me. Now, before I get into my complaints, I am going to say I do actually like it as a song in and of itself. I actually think Shatner does a good job on it, and it sounds pretty cool. With that said, it's fucking weird on this album.
But we've already had 2 other tracks that were like this. It's not like, okay, when you described it to me, you were like, wow, just such a strange turn. No, it isn't. We were on that strange turn 2 tracks ago.
Oh, what, with O
So
Come
your argument
Emmanuel?
is invalid.
Yeah.
Yeah, O Come Emmanuel was the freaking right turn into Weird Field.
Well,
That's
Okay.
where this right turn began. It didn't begin in track 9 with, oh,
I was
one
going
for
to
you,
say,
one for me.
to be fair, it was very much a turn in the sense of beforehand, most of it had been at least somewhat traditionally Christmas music. Whereas One For You, One For Me was a track I'd never heard before, and then I was trying to find the lyrics on Google and couldn't.
I couldn't find anything about it. I'm guessing it's an original.
Yeah.
And
Which, yeah, it's a decent enough original. I did enjoy it myself, too. So, yeah, we all agreed that it was good. It's just, like the other 2 tracks before this, it was really weird on this album.
yeah,
From joyful to just weird.
yeah, it's sort of like those 3 tracks live in this microcosm of what? And then the rest of the album is all thematically fitting to each other. Like you can see.
I was going to say, consider that O Come Emmanuel is still fits quite well, especially considering the fact that you've got Silent Night and Felice. Feliz Navidad on here as well.
Hey, you're not allowed to discuss track 13 yet. We have to work up to that one.
I don't know, it's just because one for you, one for me. It's sort of like it's talking about soldiers and war and...
Yeah, that was the thing that got me, that like really kind of like put it as this kind of sticks out.
Yeah.
Because as said before, like it's all well and good having like the sort of snowy kind of Christmas ones, and then having some that are actually relevant to the Christian practices in terms of the nativity. So O Come Emmanuel and Silent Night, actually talking about the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus and all of that kind of stuff. But then you kind of got the juxtaposition of the soldiers and stuff that are discussed in One for You, One for Me, and it does just feel a little bit out of place considering it's the only one that seems to really talk about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I mainly mean with it being weird. Like, I don't quibble that it fits with O Come Emmanuel in terms of sound and everything. It's just, where the fuck did this tone come from?
Yeah, because it did actually seem to have sort of more of a dark tone in terms of like the sound of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just the meanings that go along with it, you know.
It's obviously his religious beliefs that got in the way here, because he's well established as being a Pastafarian, so... No response from anybody, really? Alright, well, screw you both.
I was just trying to process that. And now I'm just imagining William Shatner as a pirate.
Be amazing, wouldn't it? So let's move on to Rudolph the Red-Nosed. What the fuck is a donder? Everyone else caught that, right, at the beginning?
Yes! It was sort of like, wait,
Right.
he said Donda.
Yeah, I don't think there's another D in Donner.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up knowing about the Donner Party, so if it was called the Donder Party, it'd be far more hilarious as a kid.
I mean, that means nothing to me, and I presume, Fran, you aren't familiar with that, but...
It's a story about cannibalism from our youth of a nation, so to speak, when we all went west. There was a pass called Donner Pass, named after the family, who all ate each other. Yay!
No, I just went back to listen to the start of that because, just to clarify, I just moved to Northern Ireland, so I occasionally hear people talking about going on a donda, which means to go on a walk. So I was kind of going, wait, did I miss something at the start of that track? But no, he was referencing of Santa's reindeer by name, and it was just like, yeah, no, it's Donna.
Yeah. I was just sort of, like, the first time, I will admit, the first time I listened through, I didn't catch it. And the second time, I was sort of like, wait, he said Donda. He fucking said Donda. Who the hell is Donda?
I mean, otherwise, it's a pretty almost normal version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's not really that bad.
Yeah.
It's very similar to...
I enjoyed the fact that it changed pace partway through and ended up with this backing track that felt almost like race music.
Yeah.
It fit, you know? It fit really well.
Yeah, and I suppose it's appropriate considering who he got on that song, which is Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. Yeah, I've got to discuss this. This album, it's got quite a star-studded cast.
And they all had to deal with William Shatner. Imagine from their perspective.
Yeah. Okay, Brad Paisley, not a fan of his music, but he is a big name. And you've got Henry Rollins, Billy Gibbons, Rick Wakeman, Judy Collins. It's sort of like...
Iggy Pop!
Iggy Pop! It's like, did they all have debts to pay? Did they all own...
That's a bit harsh.
It's sort of like, were they all in Nicolas Cage style positions of just owing a lot of money?
No, I think what happened is they all got on a bus to go to some major event, and that bus got hijacked and drug over to the studio, and William Shatner was just standing there smiling with a lead pipe.
Song or death?
Are you going to be involved in the song?
Why, yes.
Then death, please. Which is why you won't find Ralph Nader on here. Ralph Nader, of course, is not a singer. He's actually a politician from the United States back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, but that's beside the point.
But yeah,
I have no idea why my brain went there. I apologize.
Where do our brains go in any of these reviews? But anyway, it's just, you've got one of the drummers from Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it's sort of like, do all of you just have really bad accountants who screwed you over? and you're just trying to pay off your debts.
I think they just really wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of this album, is obviously just to have fun and just be
Yeah.
It's like, I may have all these gripes about the fact that it's spoken and feels like it should be lyrical, but as a general rule of thumb, like, the album was really quite fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Silent Night.
Uh-huh.
Silent Night. That was interesting, because of one thing, you've still got the strange delivery that William Shatner has.
There's something silent about tonight. Something. Okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, folks, but it's unique.
It's very off kilter. Like, it's syncopated wouldn't even be the right term.
No.
It's just completely off measure.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, in stark contrast, you've got Iggy Pop.
Singing Silent Night really quite nicely, I might add.
Yeah, and it's all like, wait, have I stepped into Bizarro World, where Iggy Pop is now a Christian singer or something?
No, see, what's going on here is all of these people came here and recorded Christmas songs, right? Mm-hmm. And then they got your drunken uncle to come over and to start doing karaoke. But before he got up on stage, they gave him an extra 5 shots of absinthe.
Raises
And
eyebrow.
now he's up there on stage and just going crazy.
I raised my eyebrow and then realised that you guys couldn't see it, so I kind of had to say it as well.
Nonsense, this is a visual show, as you can see by our static image.
Hey!
We will eventually do face cams. It'll be 2029, but we'll do face cams on this channel eventually. And of course be beamed directly into your brain, because YouTube owns everything.
I'm beginning to wonder if
Including
people are
ourselves.
going to hold you to that.
Well, I'm not on the hook. YouTube is. Alright, so, White Christmas?
That, again, what the hell?
It felt... I was going to say White Christmas was one of the ones that it felt easier to listen to, because by comparison to a lot of the others, it felt easier to listen to, because at least it sort of seemed to fit the rhythm a bit better.
I agree. It was not as disjointed as some of the other songs, but it still felt a little off.
And especially when that's the one that has Judy Collins on it. Now, Judy Collins, brilliant voice. I'd happily listen to her singing all the time. And it's just offset by Shatner and his bizarre manner. Like, it almost feels like he goes full Kirk with that song.
Oh yeah, you were saying before we started recording about that kind of feeling.
Yeah. That's, for me, that was the song where he went full Kirk.
No, for me it's the next one. Feliz Navidad.
Oh, God,
Holy
Feliz-
hell.
Oh, God.
No, that
like-
one is absolutely full Kirk.
Yeah. Oh, that was full Kirk, but White Christmas was where he started to go full Kirk, and then Feliz Navidad was when it really went, I'm just going to Kirk it up.
We're all saying it now because he
Feliz
spent the entire...
Navidad!
I was going to say, he spent the entire track pronouncing it Feliz Navidad. And now, when I remember singing...
He didn't say Navidad. He said Navidad!
Yeah.
When I
It was-
remember
it was a-
singing this, when I've been carol singing, I was always taught to pronounce it Feliz Navidad, so that it's a really sort of almost sounding Z instead of buzzing Z.
Well, that's how the Spanish pronounce Zeds. It's a th sound. But apparently in William Shatner's universe, I mean, it's quite obvious he can't speak the language. I mean,
Navidad! Still can't get over that. It's just so bad.
To be
And
fair,
the
though,
pause.
from somebody that doesn't know Spanish, it does look like it should be read Feliz Navidad.
oh, I don't deny that. It's just when you've got other iterations that you can use
Yeah.
as your basis.
No, this is true.
I don't think he actually listened to the song before he was told to sing it. I think he was just given the script, and he's just like, oh, that's right. This is that one, like, song, Italian, I think? I don't know. Fuck it, we'll just Shatner this
I
one
mean, the
up.
thing is, if it was Italian, then yeah, it would be pronounced as a hard, well, not a hard Z, but it would be more of a
It wa-
Z sound
Yeah.
than.
I like how you ran with that explanation somehow. There was something really wrong with both of you. All right, let's round this review out with the final track that, honestly, when this one started playing, my brain just went, okay, I've checked the fuck out, okay.
Especially the first chorus on this one just seemed so messy. Because you'd got, like, the punk rock from Henry Rollins being sung, and then there was just Shatner's spoken vocals over the top of it. And, like, if you thought that the rest of the album was quite disjointed, this made it 10 times worse because they didn't line up properly. And it, as I said, it just made that whole thing feel really messy. And it really put me off at the rest of the track, unfortunately.
See, I still stand by how I think this was recorded. It had to have been recorded that way, because at some point, one of the artists would have looked at him and gone, "Bitch, please, fucking keep up."
To be honest, I think that one probably will have been recorded entirely separately, and with absolutely no kind of either William Shatner or Henry Rollins hearing either track, and then it was kind of pushed together as best as possible. And trust me, I know from experience that if you try and line up two people that are not singing at the same time, it's hell to try and sort out, unless you cut everything down into the tiniest of chunks and try and line it up. Then it starts to potentially sound disjointed for different reasons. It's just like,
jingle
no.
bells, jingle bells.
Yeah, it would have ended up like that. And now here's the thing, maybe it just became sort of like, you know, you endure pain for so long and then it starts to become white noise. And maybe that's why I actually enjoyed the punk rock version of Jingle Bells. But I don't know, the messiness actually worked for me.
No.
Maybe it's because I do actually, when I was younger, I did listen to a lot of old punk.
See, hashtag I'm with her. Just awful. I mean, for a way to exit the track, like, what was up with the intro? Wait, there he is, get started. Like, what was up with the intro?
Yeah.
Now that I will agree, that was sort of like...
that just added to the messiness for me.
Were they trying to pretend like this is like some major concert?
Yeah.
It just added so much to the messiness for me. I'm sorry. But that being said, though, Henry Rollins, like, singing on his own later in the track was actually quite nice to listen to. It was very refreshing to hear a punk rock version of Jingle Bells, considering that most of the versions of Jingle Bells that you tend to hear played over and over again in the shops is so kind of, like, bellsy, if that makes sense. It's all sleigh bell, and kind of, it's got no personality beyond that, and it's kind of nice to hear a version of it that's got a bit more personality to it than just the stereotypical version.
So, final thoughts on the album?
It's a bizarre one. I'm not necessarily going to listen to it ever again.
Yeah, like...
Gasp.
Like, the fact that the songs were spoken instead of sung, like, that just didn't sit very well with me. But that being said, the backing tracks and instrumental parts all were really, really nice. Like, I genuinely enjoyed those aspects of the album, but just putting the two together just didn't fit. I feel as if it had been crafted differently, the Shatner spoken vocals would have worked a lot better, but especially where you could hear the melodies on all of these tracks, it just felt really off, because you kind of, like, especially me, where I've sung a reasonable number of these songs, like, year in, year out, I keep wanting to hear the vocals with the melody, and it's not there. It's a good mix of tracks, though. As I said earlier in the review, he does actually put a fair amount of emotion into the words he's speaking. I just don't necessarily think that the instrumental and accompanying tracks fit so well with Shatner's vocals. I think there could have been something different to sort of kind of weave it together better. But again, I will stand by the fact that 'Twas the Night Before Christmas was definitely my favourite track on the entire album, because he actually read the poem really well, and it grabbed me. It if I had to listen to a track more frequently, that will be the one track that I will kind of go, this one. This is the one that I actually enjoyed listening to.
See, I feel like at the beginning of the album sounds like this is going to be a narration album where it's a series of stories more than anything. That's how it starts. Like it's how it sounds like it's going to start. And by the time he gets to the end of the second track, that's gone. And if he had kept that going, tying each of the different songs into a story, this album would have been infinitely better. Which is Shatner. He could have easily done that. That's the only letdown to me, other than the song that will not be named.
Blue Christmas! I will keep doing this every time you say it.
It does not exist.
But that and the punk rock Jingle Bells, those two are the only ones I genuinely didn't care for. Everything else was fun, it was goofy, it was silly. I will absolutely quote his version of Feliz Navidad until the day I die, because that was the most amazingly horrible butchering of that song I've ever heard.
You're just trying to make the Spaniard of your friendship circle cringe, aren't you?
Navidad!
I am starting to cringe, and I've got no Spanish in me as far as I'm aware. Except the Spanish chicken I ate last night.
Oh, baby. But yeah, otherwise, I enjoyed it. I just felt like it needed more of something to tie it together because of who he is. It would have been amazing
it kind of
if
seems,
he had done that. But he didn't, so...
I was going to say, it kind of seems very choppy, whereas if there was sort of a bit more flow to it, I think it would have... I agree that it would have worked a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we get into those three songs that are just sort of like, these do not fit with anything else in the album.
But he could have found a way to have made them fit by creating a narration between them all.
Yeah.
He'd already created the beginning of it. Why didn't he continue going? That's the question I have about the album. That's my only real gripe, is that, I mean, even Blue Christmas actually had a purpose because, you know, while he's going along with Jingle Bells and he's riding along and then he ends up losing the sleigh and he ends up being trapped, then he finds Brad Paisley and the two of them chill and have a nice little song duet together.
Yeah.
And then poof, the narration's gone. And that's what was just so bizarre. It's like, but you've already set the stage for this. Why didn't it continue? That's my only gripe. Like, everything else works, in my opinion, because it's William Shatner and you kind of expect this.
In fact, it kind of puts me in mind of when we reviewed Avatar Country and how they kind of had the framework of a story going on there, but it kept being lost.
Yeah.
And you couldn't quite find the through line.
Like, there were some ones where, like, that one opened up with, you know, here's our national anthem, and then it went on to some other stuff where it was like, welcome to our great country, this is what our country's about, and then there was the message from the king about how he enjoyed pooping, and things like that. Like, the album itself did have a plot, I guess, but this had a much better stage for a plot, and it just went, nah, we're good. We're gonna just skate on our strange host and all the really amazing background vocals.
There's probably songs from it that I will come back to, just probably wouldn't listen to the album in full because it is one of those
Feliz Navidad.
You're not gonna let that one go, are you?
Well, I guess it's just as well if alcohol up my Lucasade.
Woohoo! All right, so Edmund, any other last thoughts? Seeing as the two of us have spilled our guts.
Nothing really much left to say. I mean, the only thing that springs to mind is what each of us would give this album out of 5.
I'd give it a 4. Like, I genuinely enjoyed this. This was good. I liked it. I mean, I didn't really enjoy, you know, Brad Paisley because I just don't like country at all. And the last song was just weird, in my opinion. That was like the last song going, well, you could have honestly closed on Feliz Navidad and I probably would have been cackling maniacally into the night. Because it's just so bad. But yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5 because it's something I'll definitely listen to at least a couple more years. You know, during Christmas time, I'm gonna bust the album out and go, "Oh God, I forgot how bad this was. Yes, let's do this again." And it's just that kind of. It's like, okay, Bob Rivers was like the biggest not Weird Al parody artist out here. And he did a bunch of Twisted Christmas albums. And they're genuinely not nearly as funny as this. Because they tried really hard to be funny. And there are some good gold songs out of those albums. But most of the time it was just kind of just fell short. Because it was obviously pop culture to that exact moment.
Yeah.
There isn't much pop culture here. This is just amazingly like dumpster fire hilarious bad songs. that work, in my opinion, because it's just William Shatner. He just works.
Well, it's basically a case of the reason it works is because they're not trying too hard, and the only real pop culture thing that you get is that they mention Brad Paisley by name, and that's it.
Yeah.
And once that's out of the way, you carry on. And the thing is, regardless of whether Brad Paisley is flavour of the month or whatever at the time, he's still going to be someone that you can look up. You know, you type his name in on Google. It doesn't matter whether or not he's popular, he's still going to be someone that you can research. So it's...
And I'm pretty sure that most people will recognize his name at least for another decade or two, just because he is a very popular country singer.
Yeah.
It's not like they just picked some random guy out of a hat that no one's ever heard of before. They picked somebody that actually is well named. I mean, like, everybody on this list is somebody who's big, as far as I can tell. So it's not like they went, oh, let's just go get some B-rated, singers from the 1930s. Nope, let's go get some real people that genuinely people listen to. Yay!
Fran, what score would you give it?
I would be more inclined to give it a 3 out of 5. Like, as I said before, there were some tracks on it that were quite enjoyable, but as a general rule of thumb, I found it kind of difficult to listen to. From the sense of the fact that when I'm listening to Christmas music, I want the lyrical stuff that I can sing along to, because for a lot of those sorts of things, I already know the words from the nearly 2 decades of carol singing.
I've got one final question for this album. Who would you give this album to in your life? Who would you give this to as a gift?
Can I say Ed? Because I know he likes to review music.
That's cheating. That's cheating.
We can't include...
That's cheating.
Can't include us in this question.
Damn it!
I would give this to Edmund because I hate him.
Damn it, plan foiled.
Actually, I know who I'd give it to.
Go on.
I'd probably give it to one of 2 people. Either Callum, because he loves to cackle at ridiculous Christmas songs and all that sort of thing, or Jess, because she is a big Star Trek original series fan.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Fair enough.
and for the context for the people in listener land and for Billy, Jess is a acquaintance from university.
All right, so how about you, Fran?
I have to say, I'm rather curious as to what my partner Pierce would make of it.
Well, there you go. So you give it to Pierce. I would give it to my stepdad because he not only hates William Shatner, but I'm pretty sure he will cringe so hard if Feliz Navidad. And I will give you guys an update personally tomorrow about that one. Because it will be an experience unlike any other. Because he's quite fluent in Spanish, so it'll be quite hilarious.
It's bad that I'm kind of wondering what one of my old media studies teachers from school would think of this album. Actually, like, there is a part of me that thinks that, like, he'd just kind of he'd enjoy it quite a bit. He was just that sort of, like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm just gonna leave it there before I dig myself into a hole.
Yeah, I suppose I'll give my score. I suppose I'd give it a 3.5.
Let's just make this nice and average.
Because there's a good few songs on it that I do genuinely like, and others that make me go, what?
So just to throw in there as well, from my perspective, like, it wasn't that I completely disliked it. It wasn't bad, which is why I gave it a 3, even though, like, I found it kind of difficult to listen to. In terms of, like, production values, like, it was good.
Yeah, well, it's one of those, I'm not surprised that production-wise it sounds good because of knowing one of the guys who produced it. So.
Oh, of course, from your perspective.
Yeah. And, you know, I am very familiar with his music and how good that all sounds and everything like that. Even way back when he was doing stuff in the 80s, and you know how crap a lot of stuff from the 80s sounds. But none the more for that. Yeah, I'd have to say 3.5 because it is actually better than I was expecting. Like, I was actually expecting to be cringing throughout, but I think Feliz Navidad and Blue Christmas kind of affect the score dramatically for me.
Fair enough. So would you like me to do the outro for us?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you for listening to Music Geekery. If you liked this particular content, please like, subscribe, and click that bell icon. We greatly appreciate your support. If you'd like to also support us financially, please go to www.patreon.com/Drehawk. Trust me, it's worth it. If you go there, there is the option for you to simply donate money directly to us, which of course we appreciate, but the thing you can also do is request, or demand, as it were, future albums for us to review, and we will be forced to review them. And that includes any album you can think of. You want to listen to Mongolian throat singing? Cool. We'll do it for you. You want us to review the Hanky Panky, or as other people would probably refer to it as, the Hokey Pokey? Absolutely. We'll gladly listen to that and review it. And finally, if you want us to listen to Dead Silence for 4 hours straight, we will actually do that. All you need to do is simply just go there, throw money at us, and we'll do anything you want. We are that much of a whore. Thank you very much, and have a great night.
Once again, raises eyebrow. What have I gotten myself into?
Oh, all manner of insanity, my dear. This has been the Christmas special, and this is me saying Feliz Navidad. Feliz. That's it for this year, folks.
Feliz Navidad! Feliz Navidad! Feliz Navidad!